Welcome back to Lonely Hearts Club Montezuma. What I thought I would do in this part of the game, rather than sort of talk about what's going on with the war, which is all fairly straightforward, is that I would focus on discussing... You two are empty, okay. I would focus on discussing the... Send you back that way then. And we'll send you to there, so that you all look up. Focus on discussing what to do in the event that you find yourself in an isolated start. Now, obviously, as I have stated in the past, take this advice based on, with the understanding that I am not the world's greatest player by any stretch of the imagination, so, there are probably better strategies that I'm going to suggest. But, that said, okay, they're all excellent. So those. But that said, I do play pretty successfully at Monarch to Emperor level. So I'm not, completely hopeless by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, now then. Yeah, we'll move you over there. So, what should you do if you find yourself in an isolated start? Well, first and foremost, don't panic. Because, isolated starts are winnable, as this game is showing. Certainly on noble difficulty anyway, they are winnable. On deity level, that might not be quite so true. Who's the first guy that's going to come out of Revolt? It's actually you, so I'll send you there. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, just do that for now. We'll come back to you next turn. And you can just do nothing. Right, yeah, so... Don't panic, number one. Wow, it's taken me 3.5 minutes to say don't panic. Awesome. Number two, in your scouting, during which time you have identified that you are isolated, make sure, sort of after that you do check really thoroughly that you have viewed every square within 2 squares of your coast. And the reason I say that is because it is possible to miss a situation, or to get into a situation where you believe you are isolated, but actually, if you had just been a little bit more thorough in checking out every nook and cranny, you would have spotted that you are, in fact, not isolated. Because you may notice that well, here's an example. Say this square here had a tile yield in it. There is no way from this island that you can work that tile. So if there is a tile yield showed in it, and this of course assumes you have tile yields on, which you should, then you would know that there is land within 2 squares of that tile, which, you know, can tell you that, you know, while you may not, in fact, be able to see anyone yet, that is quite possibly a place where you can go. Where, you know, there is somebody not that far away, and potentially with borders opening, you will be able, in the long term, to get contact with somebody. Okay, so assuming that, you know, yes, you really are isolated, what then? Well, frankly, as I said in the first, as I said in my first part of this game, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to, you know, change all that much about your gameplay. You still want to get the 4 core worker techs as soon as you can, and the 4 core worker techs are agriculture, animal husbandry, mining, and bronze working. Okay? Now, it is true that in an isolated start you might want to prioritise fishing, because you are going to have quite a lot of coastline, but I would only really prioritise fishing if you've got lots of seafood resources. If, as I did in this game, you've really only got a couple of seafood resources and most of the tiles are just going to be, you know, fairly ordinary, certainly at least until sailing and you've got lighthouses, then, you know, don't put too much emphasis on that technology. Now then, cool, that stack is now full. So yes, you want to get the 4 core worker techs, just like you always do. No difference there. You also then want to move on and get all of the we will wait just a little bit longer. You also then want to move on and get all of the normal text that you would prioritise if you weren't isolated. So, you know, you want your currency, you want your code of laws, you want all of those kind of technologies. Because once you have them, you know, you will be able to specialise your economy and really get moving. Don't, as I said, pursue an early religion. It's not the best choice for you. Speaking of not the best choices, I need to discontinue Examine City. Alt. I need to discontinue sending my troops around because it's going to be quicker to airlift a lot of these guys these days. Right, so Alt. There you go. Turn off the pathing to a rally point. Okay, so yes, you want to get all of those texts that you would normally get. Don't go after a religion. Certainly not an early religion. Confucianism is probably the earliest you want. You want as many early religions as possible. Go away, because I'm going to declare war on you pretty soon. Yes, you want those early religions to be founded in the other continent. Okay, let us... Okay, no, it didn't. Why do you have a... No, you don't. Okay. Places without airports probably need to get them. You do have an airport apparently. Right, that's probably okay then. You're building naval units, so you're probably the place to go with airport. Yep. So yeah, don't let those things, don't worry about those things too much. Don't let them change the way that you play. Yeah, and don't go after early religions, because you want the AIs to get as many different early religions as possible, get upset with one another, and go to war. That's, a good thing as far as you're concerned, is to see that kind of hostility between the AIs. Hello? Okay, the game is back. So definitely, absolutely, don't get any early religions. Steer clear. You can also go there to... Okay, what else can I tell you? Well, I can tell you I have far too many of those guys in there. Okay. So yeah, play your normal game, basically. Get your infrastructure techs in place, get going with getting yourself... as long as you've got room for 6 good cities, or more mediocre cities, you've got the space you require. You don't need to stress yourself about the fact that you are isolated. That's going to be enough to win the game. And the other thing to bear in mind is... We do not. The other thing to bear in mind is not to panic about finding the AIs. Don't beeline optics or anything like that, because you know what? Learning where the other AIs are isn't going to tell you anything unless you're ready to get Astro, or isn't going to profit you unless you're ready to get Astronomy. No, not yet. Soon. So you want to hold off on that, at least for a little while. And yeah, so get optics only when you're ready to get Astronomy. Like I'm about to get Liberalism, so I'm going to bulb Astronomy, or I'm not going to get Liberalism, but I'm going to go Astronomy next, because otherwise, unless you've got the ability to trade over the ocean, knowing where the AI isn't going to help you. So those are probably I think the key things. Don't panic, play your ordinary game, don't get an early religion, and don't worry about finding the AI until you're ready to get Astronomy, because until then it's not actually going to profit you anything. And that's taken me the whole of this time to actually tell you that, so I will see you in the next video.